Senegal's victory over Morocco in the AFCON final should have gone down as one of the proudest chapters in African football history. It was a moment that should have celebrated resilience, talent, and the steady rise of a continent that has long fought for recognition on the global football stage. Instead, the final has become one of the most controversial and emotionally charged endings the tournament has ever seen. What unfolded that night was not just a football match. It became a mirror reflecting unresolved tensions, emotional pressure, poor decision-making, and institutional shortcomings. The aftermath quickly eclipsed the football itself, turning what should have been a continental celebration into a global debate. Across Africa and in the diaspora, reactions were swift and intense. In several European cities with large African communities, unrest broke out following the match. Paris, Brussels, Antwerp, and other cities witnessed clashes between supporters and police. Social media amplified every image and every angle, often without context, feeding a narrative that overshadowed weeks of disciplined, exciting football. Inside the stadium, the tension had been building long before the final whistle. When a penalty was awarded in Morocco's favor, emotions exploded. Senegalese fans reacted angrily, and frustration spilled onto the pitch when Senegal's coach and several players temporarily walked off in protest. In that moment, the match crossed a dangerous line, away from competition and into confrontation. That single decision became the focal point of global condemnation. Critics framed it as a breakdown of discipline and sportsmanship. International football authorities responded quickly. CAF moved to suspend Senegal's coach, and FIFA President Gianni Infantino publicly criticized Senegal's actions. The narrative hardened. Senegal, the champions, were now portrayed as the main culprits in an embarrassing finale. Yet football rarely tells a simple story. Amid the chaos, one figure emerged as a symbol of composure: Sadio Mané. In what many believe was his final AFCON appearance, Mané chose restraint over rage. He urged his teammates to return to the pitch, reminding them of the occasion, the opponent, and the millions watching across Africa. His leadership helped restore order and allowed the match to reach its conclusion. That act mattered. It reminded the world that African football is not defined by disorder, but by maturity, dignity, and responsibility. For many fans, Mané's intervention was not just about football, it was about legacy. However, the broader conversation did not stop there. As scrutiny focused on Senegal, uncomfortable questions began to surface about Morocco's role in the build-up to the final. Reports emerged that Senegal's team arrived in the host city without adequate security, surrounded by large crowds of opposing supporters. Such a situation would have been unthinkable for the host nation itself. During the match, incidents added to the tension. Senegalese players complained about ball boys delaying restarts, physical intimidation, and refereeing decisions that appeared inconsistent. None of these issues alone would explain the chaos, but together they contributed to an atmosphere that felt increasingly hostile. Yet these factors received little attention in official statements. Condemnation seemed one-sided, raising concerns about selective accountability. Was the focus on Senegal's reaction obscuring deeper organizational failures? Was the tournament adequately managed in its most critical moment? The post-match press conference deepened the divide. When Senegal's coach entered, journalists reportedly stood up and walked out. Many viewed the act as disrespectful and unprofessional, especially given the magnitude of the occasion. The absence of dialogue only hardened positions and fueled resentment. Meanwhile, Morocco's own players faced immense pressure. Brahim Diaz, who missed a decisive penalty, later spoke openly about the emotional toll the criticism took on him. His words reminded fans that players, on both sides, are human beings, not symbols to be crushed by collective anger. Morocco has since suggested the possibility of legal action, arguing that Senegal's brief walkout disrupted their focus and materially affected the outcome. It is a serious claim, but one that raises fundamental questions about the nature of elite sport. At the highest level, football is unpredictable. Players compete under pressure, hostile crowds, controversial decisions, and emotional strain. Champions are defined not by ideal conditions, but by their ability to adapt. History is full of matches influenced by delays, weather, refereeing errors, and crowd behavior. Losses are painful, but they are part of the game. Senegal won the final. Morocco did not. That reality cannot be rewritten. But beyond winners and losers, African football itself paid a price. This AFCON was meant to showcase a continent that has matured tactically, professionally, and organizationally. For weeks, African teams delivered thrilling performances that earned global admiration. Stadiums were full, talent was undeniable, and the tournament stood as proof that African football belongs among the world's best. Then, in one final, that progress was overshadowed. What should have been remembered as a celebration of African excellence is now often recalled for protests, fan violence, walkouts, and blame shifting. That is the true tragedy of this final. Not that one team lost, but that the tournament's legacy was damaged. Responsibility does not rest with one nation alone. Senegal made mistakes. Morocco's environment contributed to tension. Officials failed to anticipate and manage pressure. Organizers did not enforce consistent standards. Media reactions amplified division rather than reflection. African football deserves better from all involved. This moment should serve as a lesson, not a weapon. A lesson in crowd control, fair officiating, player protection, and communication. A lesson in how quickly progress can be undone when leadership falters. And most importantly, a lesson in unity. AFCON is bigger than any single final. It represents the hopes of millions across a continent that has long fought for respect on the global stage. That respect is earned not only through talent, but through discipline, fairness, and accountability. Senegal's triumph should not be erased. Morocco's disappointment should not be dismissed. Both teams carried the weight of history, expectation, and national pride. In moments of madness, both faltered. But in moments of excellence, both reminded the world why African football matters. The challenge now is not punishment, but progress. If African football is to continue its rise, this final must become a turning point, not a stain. Institutions must be strengthened, standards clarified, and emotions managed with wisdom rather than reaction. Players, coaches, fans, and officials all share that responsibility. AFCON showed the world Africa's color, passion, and power. It also revealed how fragile progress can be. The choice ahead is clear. Learn, grow, and protect the future of African football, or allow one night of chaos to define it for years. As we reflect on this moment, let this conversation bring us closer, not push us apart. African football is bigger than any single match, any one nation, or any one controversy. It belongs to all of us. If you believe African football deserves fairness, dignity, and respect on the global stage, share this discussion with others. Let your voice be one that calls for unity, accountability, and progress, not blame. Like this video so it reaches more people who care about Africa's future in sports. Subscribe to Voice of Africa for balanced, fact-based conversations that uplift the continent and tell our stories with honesty and pride. And in the comments, speak with respect. Disagree if you must, but do so with wisdom, peace, and love. Because only together can we protect the future of African football and the legacy of Africa itself.